Hey, what's up, fam? Welcome back to another episode of True Bearing Podcast. My name is Kwame. I'm your host. Another good one for you today. So today I'm hosting a couple of our prospective supply officers who are going to Littoral Combat Ships, Navy's almost newest platform, the LCSs. LCS has been fairly new, and I just came off of one not too long ago. Had the opportunity to talk to them and kind of share my ideas on what I think is a good recipe for success as they embark on their journey. We're going to break this podcast into two. The first part is going to be where I tell them about myself, what I've done so far, what to expect. The second part is going to be a Q&A where I listen to their questions, see anything else that they have, provide the best answers, best guidance so they can be successful. I love doing this. I love doing this. All right. So stick around. Let me know what you got. If you find value out of this, please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing to our page so we can always bring you more. And this can reach more people. Whatever you do, find your bearing. Come alongside with me. While we wait, if you guys want to quickly introduce yourself, because I don't think I've met any of you guys yet. And I'll tell you something a little about myself. And then I imagine it would be mostly Q&As, right? Kind of share experience and stuff. Yeah.
I'll go first. I'm Ensign Justin De La Rosa. Prior enlisted, I was a postmate, BM2, had a short break in service, commissioned in November through OCS. I'm 40. I've been married for almost 16 years. I have two kids. Super excited. I'm headed to LCS 25, Marinette, down in Mayport.
Okay.
All right, I'll go next. Okay. All right. Hey, I'm Ensign Omage, prior enlisted HM Star. So I get to hear all the banter. I'm not a real sailor, but yeah, I was par for 7 years, and also Justin, I commissioned and went to OCS in November, not August, and then finished in November. What else? Pretty much that's it for the Navy side. And I'm married, no kids yet, working on it, and yeah, looking forward to experience the LCS community. Yeah, I was posted to the Wichita
Okay.
LCS 13, the Lucky 13. That's what they're called. So
Yeah.
I look forward to our conversation, hopefully.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Ensign Raven Day. I've been in the Navy for 12 years as an LS1. Let's see, I commissioned in November as well through OCS, and I was not interested in LCS platform. I was pushed this way, but I'm single and I have one daughter is 3 years old, and I'm very interested to learn more about this platform. Mainly about the work-life balance. That's my biggest thing. So.
Okay.
I can go next. Ensign Tavon Tarplier, commissioned in November. Just like everyone here, I'm straight from the street to the fleet, no prior experience. Had a little 2-year stint in the civilian space doing sales and talent acquisition, some human resource stuff. Wasn't interested in me, so I joined the Navy. But yeah, similar to Miss Day, wasn't LCS community, wasn't on my top preference sheet. Kind of just got pushed this way, but learning more about it, super excited. I'm heading to the St. Louis out of Mayport. So,
okay. And that happens to be a thing. One of the new guys that just came, he hasn't even checked in yet. He said the same thing, which I was kind of surprised because I thought for independent duty, you basically have to volunteer for it.
Yeah, I think for subs, yes. I think for the LCS, if they think you're strong enough and they'll kind of put you in there.
Yeah.
But,
okay. Hopefully that's a plus,
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, what's going on? Sorry for the
good.
delay. I'm here on the ship doing some work or whatever, busy day. But yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Big Supple, we have LTJG Page. He's I'm going to be his relief. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, so he was he like kind of he had mentioned that he'll be here if he has the availability, and I'm kind of glad he made it here today. So I wanted us to have someone from the West Coast and also from the East Coast, so that way we can at least have, because some of us were selected to go to the West Coast, and then like some of us are going to Mayport. So I wanted us to have that balance,
Okay.
and so that way we can we can have like a great conversation, so no one feel like left out.
Okay.
Because considering that we have like two classes of the LCS.
Nice.
So thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know as well. Welcome aboard, Mr. Page.
Hey, what's going on? So, yeah, so what were y'all discussing just now?
No,
Just
just a quick
introduction.
introduction.
Oh, okay. So I'm Lieutenant JG Page. I am the SEPO here on the Wichita. I've been here since March of 2025, so a year and some change. I was prior aviation type though. I've been in the Navy for a little over 10 years. Went to supply school, Fort Bet 2024, graduated December 2024. Went to a couple schools in between, checked in March 2025, and been rolling ever since.
Nice.
You know?
I'll go next. So I'm Asia Irving. I guess chose to go to LCS. Uh, Everybody, I've heard a lot of things about it. People are kind of saying it's not the platform to go to, and I kind of wanted to see why. Because I would say 5 out of 7 people told me don't go to an LCS, and I'm just like, okay, why? So when the time came, I chose to go for it because I wanted to see, what it's all about. But I'm street to fleet, so no prior experience. Commissioned in November. Before the Navy, I did residential construction and a little bit of contract management with Duval County. And so I'm going to the USS Billings, LCS 15 in Mayport.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, Billings is on deployment right now, actually. That's funny. Yeah. I just actually gave them apart like an hour, 2 hours ago, actually. Yeah. They're down there in Fourth Fleet right now.
Wow.
Things. Yeah.
All right, so I'll go ahead and go. My name is Ensign Felicia Porter. I am street to fleet. No prior experience prior to the Navy. I worked in sales, training, and management. And when it comes to the LCS community, like Asia, I'm also quite interested to kind of learn more about it. A lot of people were giving some pushback on it, so it's going to be interesting to find out why. And then I think what I'm primarily looking to get out of this discussion today is our expectations as the supply officer during our first tour on the LCS.
I think that's everybody, right?
Yes, that's everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my name is Kwame. I don't think we've personally met, but I'm glad we're having this conversation. So I'm an LDO, so my ways are a little different. I was a prior LSC before I commissioned. I've been in for about 14 years now. Just left my ship, USS Charleston, last Friday. And I'm heading to Yokosuka, Japan to go do contracting internship over there. That's what I wanted to do. And when I applied, it just happened to be Japan that was available. So I just kind of took my shot with it. So as most of you know, when I went through BQC, going to a submarine was not one of the things that I wanted to do, And I think it's a really great opportunity. And if you look at the trajectory of what Supply Corps is doing, submarine is really on an up and up, right? So it would have been a really good career move to do that. I just didn't feel as though, as of that time, I wanted to learn a new culture, i.e. submarine culture. And so I kind of didn't want to do that. I'm just the type of person that, I really have to understand and be all in something, to be able to give my all and stuff like that. So I didn't do a submarine. I wanted to go to an MCM, though, because I still wanted to do my department head tour out of the way. And as of then, that's when the conversation about decommissioning all of the MCMs came about. So there was no billets in my class for MCMs. So I was my back was against the wall on that. And so I wanted to go the traditional LDO route by going to a carrier. and so I was okay with that. And I kind of wanted to come back to San Diego because my last ship, which was DDG, was here in San Diego, and literally maybe about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, no more than 2 weeks before orders reading, we found out about LCSs. And so the dean at that time, came to me and was like, "Hey, this is a conversation that's going on. Can you go find out some stuff about LCSs?" I was like, "Sure." So I called a couple people. I didn't know anybody from the east, from the West Coast, and so everybody that I called was from the East Coast, including Ebony that I talked about. She left the Wichita as a CSC. Yeah. So they talked to me about it. I figured that was something I would do because I was coming from a DDG, small boy life. I started my career off of the Ike in Norfolk, and then from the Ike, I went to the Blue Angels, and then from the Blue Angels, which is where I made Chief, I went to Decatur, DDG, and so, I had kind of bounced around different platforms, so I was okay doing that. The concept was so new that nobody knew what was going on, especially for us as supply corps officers. We knew what the LCSs did and what the ships were doing, but we didn't really know what supply corps' fate was because it was still a testing thing going on. And I think the conversation at that time was I was going to make it here and kind of see how it was, give some feedback to the schoolhouse and to OP, and then kind of figure out if this is something we wanted to do. And I just knew that the mission was not going to fail while I was in there, and I'm not bragging. It was just the fact that I didn't want the failure to be attached to my reputation in the supply corps. And so we had to work extra hard to try to make this work, which was doable. It's possible, and I'll give you a quick story. Like on my last DDG, when I first checked in as a new chief, we had to go through SMC within a month. I only had 4 LSs, including myself, and we still went through SMC. And so I look at things like that and how that was possible, and I kind of equate that to bringing it to LCS, and I knew it was doable. So we kind of took on that. Charleston was the first of a lot of things, a lot of different things. We were the first to single crew. We were the first to have our supply on board. So I've had our supply for almost a year and a half on board, which was the first ship to have it. One of the ship, Omaha, just got it about maybe 2 or 3 months ago. So it was different. I think the initiatives that they were pushing all the way from CNSP, the deputy SWO boss was the one who was in charge of LCSs at that time, and it was for both, for East Coast and West Coast. So all these things were being done to favor both coasts. I think it has been a good run. I'm not gonna lie, it has been a good run. We tested out a lot of things and realized it was possible, it was gonna work. Which fast forward, I think is how everybody has made it here. I was able to, since it wasn't my first ship, I think I got in there and like real quickly kind of established my footing. And so everything kind of went well. And I think because I was an LDO, some things were kind of expected. And so I probably didn't have to start from scratch like that, which I think for most of the suppos that came after me, that was their story. They had to start from scratch. But at the end of the day, you're still a department head, right? Regardless how you look at it, you're still a department head. You're going to be ensign. You're going to be the most junior department head, but you're still a department head. And so how you want to be, I guess, associated with is how they're going to treat you. You come in and you act like, hey, I'm just an ensign, then they're going to treat you as an ensign. You come in and you act like I'm a department head, then they're going to treat you as a department head, I didn't have a chief for a year and some months. So literally was me. I had 2 LSs, an LS2 and an LSSN, and then I had 6 CSs because we had combined blue and gold. So I kept all my CSs for my whole supply department. So, we were pretty tight, and we're still tight to this day, even after I checked out. Eventually, my LS1 that I got made chief, and so we were able to keep him. So, I've had a chief for a couple months before I left, which was really good. And that goes back to the initiatives that I was talking about. So there was an alignment that was done from CNSP for all of the LCSs. for freedom and independence variant on how many LSs and how many CSs you're supposed to have. If I remember correctly, we were supposed to have 3 LSs and a suppo, and then the freedom variant was supposed to have 4 LSs and a suppo. That was what they drafted. Maybe Paige can tell us if that actually happened, but reason why we had 3 and they had 4 was because CNSP also pushed for one of our supply billets to be converted into a PS billet. So that was that. And then for the CSs, it was 6. It was supposed to be 6 CSs. 1 CS1, 2 CS2s, and then 3 CSSNs. Yeah, so I don't know, Paige, if you can maybe enlighten us on how you guys' manning looks like. I think you're muted.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, so right now we're billeted for 4 LSs and 5 CSs.
Okay.
I currently have 3 LSs right now, LS1, LS2, and an LS3, she just made third. And then I have 4 CSs, a CS2, a CS3, and 2 Siemens. I don't have a chief either, like you said. I haven't had a chief in about a year. So definitely day and night. It's a gift and a curse, not having one. I think if you go into that situation where you don't have a chief or your chief billet is gap, the department may struggle a little bit initially, right? Because as a SEPO, you're going to be focused a lot on a lot of the SEPO stuff. A lot of the good order, discipline, and admin stuff that chief will regulate, you're going to have to step down and regulate a little bit of that too. So it may take some of your attention away from some things. But the good news is it forces you to learn stuff that you probably would never learn. Because when I had a chief here, he just did all of it for me. Like, I got to try to take care of it, and it was done. But once he left, it forced me to have to learn this stuff, the intricate details of the job to get it done. So in the long run, it was a gift. In the short run, we struggled a little bit.
Awesome. You made the work though, so
yeah, it's a grind, but we're making it work.
And I think that's probably synonymous across board, right? Don't for the new guys that's come in, just understand that your work is going to be cut for you for sure. There were days that I felt like I was still in LS, and that's what I had to do to keep it running. You know what I'm saying? You can choose to be a manager and sit around, or wait for things to get to you, but it will probably make the job a lot harder. I had a lot of long days. I'm talking about, normally I'm an early bird. So I'll be on base by 5. I'll go to the gym, stuff like that. I'll make it to the ship no later than 6:30. Your first meeting, if you don't have duty, would typically start around 7. And if you have duty, around 7. If you don't have duty, our first meeting was like 7:15 for like khaki call or XODH call, stuff like that. So I still had enough time from the time I get on board, check my emails, kind of make plans for the day, stuff like that before meeting kind of kicks off. And I would typically be there up until about 1800 on a normal day. At least 3 or 4 days out of the week, it was like an 1900 type of day. It didn't really bother me. Don't get me wrong. It didn't bother me at all, because at the end of the day, whatever work that you don't accomplish that day, you're going to have to do it the following day. My first maybe 3 months, 4 months or so, I was working directly with LST because I didn't have our supply. And then when I finally got our supply, I realized, man, I wish I still had LST, because there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that they do for you. Now, granted, don't get me wrong, LST process is not perfect by any means. I didn't like the fact that my CEO was calling me at like 1700 on a Saturday night trying to get a whiskey wreck. And I couldn't get LST. And ever since I was enlisted, I'm the type of person that, like, every chance that I get, if I'm not too busy on the ship, I'm gonna go around and talk to people that I work with, i.e. off ship, because I call them my stakeholders, so you would not be successful. Well, at least I didn't think that you would be. You would not be successful if you don't do stuff like that. And so the difference between me and the next suppo is they know me. They know my name. They know my face. I go there. I kick it with them. even if it's 30, 40 minutes or whatever case might be. And so when I call them, they know that I'm calling them because I really need it. I'm not just calling because your CO's down your throat, saying that we need a whiskey rack, And there were times that I think luckily because I was in LS and I knew how to use our supply and stuff like that, there were times that I volunteered to go in a building and meet whoever was going to come in to do it so I can do part of the process to speed it up. I was okay with that. And so that helped a lot. They knew that I was willing to help. It wasn't just CO just needed it, and so somebody needed to come in. And if you're used to West Coast, we're here in San Diego, and you have somebody on duty, which duty is supposed to be 24/7, but we're all humans. People have families and stuff like that. When somebody lives up in Temecula, which is about an hour and a half away, and you call them on a Saturday night, well, you can guess how long that's going to take before they get here, if they do get here. So that part was, I kind of missed that a little bit, because now, as soon as I got our supply, all those responsibilities was on me. I told you I only had 2 LSs. We have 4 duty sections at that time. And so even with me being in one section by myself, and I did all the LS stuff, all the daily reports, I'm doing all these other things, there was one duty section that didn't have no LS. And so if things needed to get done, one of us had to go in, And it's just something that I accepted that had to get done to keep things going. And looking back, that helped a lot. My fit reps were really good. I had some really, really good breakouts. I can share some of that with you. And again, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that I think those things, when you do it, come back to kind of pay you back, in good return. So that's good. I had good breakouts with my other department head colleagues who were not supply, obviously, and they were all 04. When I got there, I was an ensign. The other 3 department heads were 04s, and I was still getting breakouts as compared to them, which says a lot. So that was good. Yeah. I think that's probably everything right now. We'll just open it up for whatever questions you guys have. Hopefully that kind of opens up, some other things that we need to talk about. Before I forget, I do have a document that I'll share with you guys. I call it the path to success, supposed path to success. I basically created that when I got on board, and I didn't know, what all needed to be done. It was a combination of the 4400 and how we actually did things, in real life, and kind of came up with like a schedule of what needed to be done every day, every week, every month, semi-annually, annually, stuff like that. And if I knew that if I followed those things, I would be successful. And it kind of worked out for me. So I shared that with every suppo. Luckily I've met every suppo that came here on the West Coast, and even some of the guys that came on the East Coast. I have talked to them over the phone or met them in person. I was able to share their document. So I'll share that with you guys. It helps you guys out.
Hey, thank you very much. That would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
I do have a question. What surprised you? I have a list of questions, but what surprised you most during your first 90 days that nobody warned you about? I know this is kind of tricky because we're the first LCS Suppo, so there wasn't really much warning that you could get, but anything that really surprised you when you checked on board a Suppo?
The amount of sailor issues that I had to deal with while trying to establish programs, that was a lot. I think good and bad, but we were coming from a blue and gold era to a single crew era. So these guys, when they initially got their orders to LCS, they were sold on, hey, you're going to be on haul for 6 months and you're going to be in the building for another 6 months. And, to a lot of people, that's good. It sounds really good that I don't have to be on a ship for 6 months. And so once you actually show up and you realize, well, your 6 months that you're going to be in the building, you could possibly be supporting another ship. Well, that was not, that's not what they signed up for. On top of that, we had merged into one crew. So now you really don't have no building time. You're on the ship every day doing work, do the section stat and stuff like that. And so that kind of created a lot of sailor issues, and we had to deal with a lot of that. unfortunately, some of our supply ratings do like to get in trouble, some bit. So I had to deal with a lot of that while still trying to establish a lot of new things because now, CEO was comfortable with, hey, I need you to establish your hazmat program because that wasn't really a thing. When you check on some of the ships, I don't know how you guys do it on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, some of the ships are so on demand that they don't even have an LS to man hazmat. They'll have somebody random from some work center that will come in, open hazmat, basically check out whatever they need. You know what I'm saying? And they have their own local systems that they use, which could be deadly, if you really think about it. And so having to establish a system on how we do business and having to tell people, like, if you need this, I need you to do that. They were not used to that. So it's a lot of rebuttal that I had to deal with. But I think what helped me with that was I took that time to explain to people why we're doing things. And as soon as we started seeing results out of that, it helped. Everybody kind of fell in line, so that helped. But that was a little painful in the beginning to try to establish those systems. If
Thank you.
want to add something to that.
Yeah, I will add. I would say for me, there's a couple of things. Some of the biggest surprises or challenges to me was one thing. Once you get on board, like you're gonna have a different perspective than a lot of other people on the ship. They're gonna be used to doing things one way. You're gonna be someone that's probably coming to the ship with an outside mindset and be able to identify deficiencies that people might be so used to because they've been there so long that they don't notice it. When you're on this ship and you're in that situation, one of the things a lot of people are resistant or reluctant to change. So when you present new ideas and changes, you definitely might get some resistance from people. I would say one of the surprises is learning how to persevere through that persistence, right? Or resistance, because people are going to challenge you on things. Like you want to see, hey, I know we did things this way, but hey, looking at the instruction, looking at the results, I think it's best if we do things this way. And you outline the game plan for them, and people want to push back, like, well, we never did it this way before, or can't do it because of this or that. Like you finding a way to get them to that point of how you want things to run, because you're going to get a lot of resistance for a lot of things for whatever reason. Some people, it might be legit gripe or complaint. It might just people just complaining because they don't want to change or do something. They're comfortable. Finding a way to motivate them to change things for the better is going to be a big challenge. Well, it was one of the biggest surprises me coming here. That's for sure. I would also say, I know you touched on some programs like hazmat, things like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've never been on a ship or talked to a shipper where hazmat wasn't a headache for them. This is one of those programs where it's just the demand for hazmat versus the space you have is always going to be a challenge because the ship is going to have a certain demand and you're just not going to have enough space for all of it. Like you have to play Tetris to make sure that hazmat works for that mission, for that underway or that time period is going to be a constant challenge for you as SEPO and whoever your hazmat manager is. If you have an LS managing it and you overseeing it, it's definitely going to be a grind for you for sure. But this job is very doable. I'll say that. Again, I came out. I didn't have any supply experience, so I came in. Like a lot of people off the street, right? I didn't know a damn thing about supply except for what they taught me in supply school, right? And you get to your ship, you want to know some things, and then the LSs and people on there is going to know a lot of things too, right? Yeah. Trying to figure out a way to prioritize things matters too, because you're going to get hit tasked with 1,000 things every day. Like the amount of emails I get a day is ridiculous. The amount of times people come here, hey, Seppo, is ridiculous. But you happen to prioritize things like, hey, big picture things, immediate things that needs my attention, things that are intermediate that I can delegate to more seasoned supply people. Not me, but maybe my LS1 or my chief, because it is a priority, but doesn't demand a suppo presence on it. And then the smaller back burner tasks, you can kind of delegate to the more junior sailors, get them used to repetition of meeting tasks and meeting deadlines, things like that. That's one of the ways that I typically run my department or whatever. And you'll know that like when you get there and you get settled in, you'll know taskers that requires your attention, suppo like big ticket items, things that keeps the ship tied to the pier, things that maybe your captain or XO is harassing you about, things that ISIC is harassing you about, that type of stuff. It might demand your attention. And then you just gotta prioritize and delegate too, right? You can't do everything. Like he said, I find myself doing a lot of work, like physical work that you wouldn't think a subbo would do. But like for example, earlier we had storage unload today. My leading CS had a family emergency, had to lead out. I was in the reefer just now all day today, organizing the reefer, making sure it's good to go for this food unload. Like me, subbo. So that might be you in your LCS, right, or whatever ship you want to. Just don't ever think you're too big for a job. I'll say that because when I got here too, that was one of the things. Like, hey, I'm an officer, man. Officers don't do that. Officers don't sweep mop floors. No, I'm being there. No,
Yes.
exactly. You're doing everything. You're doing a little bit of everything for sure. But yeah.
I have a question for you all. This is going to be also for you, Lieutenant Junior Grade Paige. I know you're coming from the east side. When it comes to a typical deployment, what is that looking like? And I know that we've been taught from the instruction, to look to do replenishments a certain way with a certain leeway time. But I understand that we can't be out as long when it comes to the LCS. So what does that preparation look like?
So LCS deployment, it really just depends on what AR area you're going to. We did a deployment, 7-month deployment, from October of last year to May of this year. And we did a combination of between 4th Fleet and 2nd Fleet. 4th Fleet being like the Caribbean and South America area, and then 2nd Fleet being more like the Gulf area. It really just depends what area you go to, but like if you go to the Gulf right now, they're doing 3 to 4 months deployments or surges, whatever they want to call it. If you go to 4th Fleet, you're going to be out there for at least 6 months for sure. So it really just matters which fleet you go to. As far as like the schedule and like tasking, as far as like rises and stuff like that. So LCSs don't have the endurance of like legacy ships, right? You're not staying out there for 30 days at a time or 45 days. A lot of that is just because of fuel. This ship is a gas guzzler, burns a lot of fuel. You're in port at least every 7 to 10 days trying to refuel. And usually you take that opportunity to get stores and stuff too as well. So like on average, you may be out to sea for anywhere from, I think the longest I stayed out was probably about maybe like 15 days once. And usually you're just sitting around on the coast or somewhere monitoring drug running boats or something like that. I would say as far as like still as far as replenishing go, like we can do rises and stuff. But typically you won't need it because you're pulling the port so much. Like a raz has to be like an emergency. If you need like a specific emergency material and like you need it Ricky tick and then you do like a bird rep or something to get it to you. Yeah. But my entire time here on ship, we only did a raz one time. Twice actually. One was for training and one was the actual raz. So you'll probably be out for about 7 to 10 days on average. You pull into a port. Now, not every port call is the same length. A lot of port calls is what they call BSF, brief stop for fuel. So that's a 24-hour port call. You're in there for a day, you refuel, you leave the next day. But sometimes you'll get an actual port call where you're there for 4 or 5 days. It's really just a matter of what's the shit missing and stuff.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. And then, and I'm assuming we're using like husbanding agents when we get to the ports to kind of get that the stores unloaded and everything.
Correct. So I know that did all the HFT stuff. I know that sounds when you took the course in there, made that seem like it was a nightmare. It's really not as hard as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be 10 times harder, more difficult. It's really just a simple of you submit a log rec, ops submit the log rec, you suppo get a chop on the log rec, you review it, put your inputs on it. It goes to the FLC, it goes up to Tycom, they solicit it to contracting. Contracting takes it and solicits to local vendors, whatever port you're going to. The contract gets awarded, and then like all your info is on a log rec, and they see the log rec, so they typically reach out to you, the HSP, on your email. Hey, suppo, we've been awarded your HSP task order. Give us a call at this number so we can start coordinating your services. And then at that point, it's just email and phone calls. Hey, this is what we're requesting. Fuel on this day, food on this day. We need a brow this big. We need a forklift this big. We need this amount of vehicles, this drivers on this schedule, things like that. That's pretty simple. And then every day you do your daily recon, right? You get the paper. All right, we got this today. We got this. We didn't get this. Or we got this, but we didn't get this amount of quantity, got that amount of quantity. It's a lot simpler than what they made it seem. That's for damn sure.
Okay, thank you.
I know y'all probably stressing about that. I was nervous as hell. I would go to the sport, man. I'm gonna screw this up or whatever. Man, it was a lot easier than I thought it was be, for sure.
I think the only thing I'll add to that is just, SWOs are gonna be SWOs, right? And so for you as suppo, you definitely want to make sure that log rate goes out at least 30 days out. So you have a big shot at getting all your items on the log rate fulfilled, off field or whatever, because then if that doesn't happen and the log rate gets released later, then your husband and people may not be able to fill everything, which means once you get into port, you're probably going to have a headache of trying to make these things happen, right? That's really the only thing that I would add to that. But other than that, like he said, it's really not that hard. It's not. You just educate your people, make sure they understand when it comes to, HSP stuff. Just educate your people so they understand. If I don't tell you that we're getting this service, don't take it from them. It's just that simple, so you're not charged with unauthorized commitments and stuff like that. But that's it.
Right. The one thing I'll add to that is most ports you're going to go to, typically a naval ship has been there already. So the HSP has already worked with the ship, so they have an idea of what the ship needs.
Yeah.
However, there are some ports that you might go to that have not had a Navy ship in there or within recent times. We went to a port in Mexico, Veracruz. They haven't had a naval ship for over 90 years. So it was a headache, getting everything from them. They didn't understand the needs of a naval ship, a U.S. naval ship. So it was like pulling teeth every day to get them to give us the basic requirements. So with the HSP portal, one good tool, you can look in there and see which ships pulled there in the past, and you can get an idea of the contract that's being awarded for that port. How good are they? The HSP services, whoever they are at that port, you can get an idea. You can reach out to the suppos who pulled in before and say, hey, how is this HSP service that we've been awarded? And they can give you the scoop on it. But most ports, the HSPs typically have dealt with some form of naval ship, so they have a basic idea of how it works.
Yeah.
Most.
I guess I will go now. Let me have a few questions, but I'll ask the first. So one of the questions that I have is how are you able to balance work with you getting your school pain? Because from what I've heard so far from both of you, it seems like a lot of work, and I'm just trying to imagine how you're able to balance that, and also just work-life balance per se. Family, you got your qualifications that you have to meet as well, and then you have your work requirements. So what was the trick? Because obviously you guys are about to leave and you guys were successful at it. So I'd like to pick your brain on that.
Yeah. Don't use my timeline as a baseline for you, because you might stress yourself out probably more than you should. I think you should still get in and get it done. But I had my pin in 105 days of being on board. And that was after my first 30 days, I did not do anything qualification wise. The only thing I wanted to do was recall on my CDO, recall on my ATWO, because that's what I needed to do to support the ship. And the moment they understood that I was literally putting my qualification down to support the ship, everybody was willing to help me out when it came to Swissco. The reason I say don't use it as a baseline is because some of the basic stuff that, if you're coming from street to fleet that you may have to do, I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to qualify 3M. I didn't have to qualify base to DC. Those things you're going to have to do. So if you add another, say, 60 days on top of that, you should be good. You should be good. Just like anything else, right? If I'm going to be here till 1900, 1800 every day, I'm gonna make sure at least an hour or two of that is my personal time that I'm gonna get things done. You know what I'm saying? And if that means lunchtime, oh well, so be it, right? Because at the end of the day, once you get qualified, you don't have to worry about that ever again. You know, I'm the type that, you know, eat in my office while I'm doing work. So I don't mind going to talk to somebody or get some training and do that. But it really boils down to like the human factor involving all of these things. Like if you have been in the fleet before or even like worked in a civilian company, like the more you are willing to help people out, right, the more they're going to be willing to help you on the back end when it's time for you to get your qualification and stuff like that. So when somebody comes to you and you make the process easy, you know, I'm not saying cut corners or anything like that, but make the process easy for them. Break it down to them like they don't understand. Tell them exactly what you need from them to get it done. And once you do 1, 2, and 3, and they understand that Supple knows what she is doing, it's very simple. People are going to come to you and say, hey, Supple, we need X, Y, and Z. And you tell them, for me to get that done for you, I need you to do A, B, and C. They do A, B, and C, you get it done for them. You know, so they know you mean business. So when you go to them and say, hey, can I get some training on whatever it is? It's easy. It's no come see me later. It's no, people are going to be willing to help you out. You know, so I didn't see that as a problem. Now, I would tell you about the other supples that came after me that were not, that were street to fleet. You know, some of those people had their pins in like 6 months of being on board, you know, and they had to qualify everything. I'm talking about everything, you know, from all the basic stuff, you know, but it was the same thing that I did that I told them and they did, and it worked out for them, you know. So I don't think it would be an issue. At least here in the West Coast, I don't know anybody that hasn't got their pin in a year being on board at most, you know. So I don't think that would be an issue. It'd be a lot of learning, yes, but you know, that's normal. You went through OCS, you went through BQC. I think you'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, my advice on that, I would say, number one, duty days, right? Maximize those duty days. You're on a ship for 24 hours. Might as well go ahead and get some quals, go talk to some people, get some signatures on those PQSs. That's how I did it. Get some flashcards. Let me see. It took me. I had to start from scratch. I came from an aviation background, so I didn't have any ship quals. So I started from the bottom. I think I got my pin in like 8 or 9 months, and that's with like cruising. Like I had all my sign-offs probably like 6 months, but I took like 2 months to study just for the board. So it's really not that super duper hard. Just apply yourself. The other aspect of it, I'll say, is especially when it comes to like board and stuff, like your performance matters a little bit too, because the CO has to qualify you, right? Yeah. So what your CO thinks of you matters a little bit too. If your CO, simply put, if he or she thinks you're a competent Suppo, your board will go a lot easier or whatever. If they a little iffy on the table about you, you know, your performance is a little iffy, you know, your board might be a little harder.
Yeah.
Or yeah, you might have to do a couple boards at that point. All the point to say is that your performance matters too, right? So, you know, it ain't just about signing off and knowing the question and tests. If you look at the instruction, one of the basic lines that says is performing at the duties or the expectation of a supply officer. So if your CO is competent in you, that'll go a great way for you for getting your pin, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took me like 8 months, 8 or 9 months to get it.
Yeah. I think a hard truth that you're probably going to have to understand is the board, you're probably going to have to know a lot more SWOL stuff than supply, unfortunately.
Right.
So that's not something that I thought would happen. Even with me, you know, like me and my people on the ship were really good. But my supply part, probably for a board that was about an hour and a half, the supply portion probably took maybe 20 minutes. Maybe 20 minutes, you know, and probably because they knew that I knew or thought that I knew, and so we didn't really spend a lot of time on that. But I had to know a lot of SWOL stuff, you know. So that was that, you know, every ship on the waterfront, what they do, what they bring to the fight, stuff like that, like a typical. So if you get there and you see like some of the SWOL JOs going through their process, just kind of listen up, you know, what they're doing, because you're gonna be doing most of the stuff that they're doing. Yeah. Hey, what's up, fam? Kwame here again. It's been a really, really good episode where we've talked about everything LCS in and out. And hopefully you find value from all my prospective supply officers. Congratulations and welcome aboard. I hope you find value out of this. Whatever you do, find your bearing. I'll see you around.